Boxing fans was good. So it is Sunday, 12 noon, and Canelo versus Lara has come and gone, and Canelo wins a split decision victory in a really tough fight, and the fight went really almost like I expected to an extent. I think Canelo Alvarez impressed me in two ways. One, I think his stamina was on point, and I think as well he was cutting the ring off better than he has in the past. There were points in the fight where he was kind of doing the same thing, following Lara and letting Lara just kind of like pepper him. But I think Canelo, at least in this case, made a better case for himself as far as maybe seeing some improvements that he didn't have, or that were shown in the Mayweather fight, where he just was following Floyd all night and trying to box, and he was attacking the body really well against Lara. But Lara, I think, put on a great performance, man. People are talking about he ran and what have you, but like, look, you can make the comparison about amateur boxing and professional boxing, but at least for me, as far as what I scored the fight, I had it a draw. I think Lara won a good amount of the early rounds, and then Canelo started picking it up. Like, I gave him, I think, 3 or 4 straight rounds. I think from rounds 4 or 5 and on. And then I gave Canelo the 11th, and I gave Lara the 12th. But I think I might have given Canelo the 10th too. I have to check the scorecard. I mean, well, actually, hold on. We're doing this live. I had Canelo winning the 10th. Or I had him winning the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. And then I had him losing the 11th and the 12th. But I had Lara winning the first 3 rounds, and then Canelo winning the next 3 rounds. Lara winning the 7th, Canelo winning the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and then Lara winning the 11th and 12th, which scored it a draw on my card. Now, the controversy that's coming about now is the obvious 117-111 card for Canelo, which means that Canelo would have won 9 rounds out of the fight, which any boxing fan that understands the sport knows that that is obviously not the case. Now, am I mad that he got the decision? No. Lara kind of fucked up. He wasn't active enough. He showed signs of his defense and his precision, but I could kind of tell in the mid rounds that Canelo, it kind of like, instead of him wearing down, he kind of was picking it up, and Lara, I guess, maybe his team thought that that's maybe where Canelo was gonna start to simmer down, and maybe they'd pick it up, because it kind of seemed like he was a lot more on the defensive, and he was still landing shots, but Canelo was landing the more noticeable shots, and he was landing the body shots that at least Lara's talking about he didn't feel. I'm pretty sure he felt those punches. Canelo was landing a little bit under the belt, but that happens as a body puncher, man. Or when you're landing body punches, you're gonna hit the belt or a little bit below the belt, but it wasn't a consistent thing throughout the fight. I compared this fight to, like I said, sort of like what a De La Hoya Ike Cortez fight was. They didn't really get into brawls like that. I think it became a situation where Canelo was just getting closer and closer and closer. But then Lara made it at times difficult for Canelo to really land clean. Like, you would see Canelo swinging and landing, but or he'd be swinging, but he wasn't really landing anything. And that's why I gave him Lara the last 2 rounds, because up to that point, and I'm watching the fight with a few people, and I'm sitting there, at least at the beginning of the fight, I'm like, wow, Lara's about to put a clinic on him. But then I kind of started to see Lara maybe, I don't want to say he was fading a little, but he was hitting Canelo maybe with some of the harder punches that he could try to hit him with, and he maybe, I don't know, got discouraged, or maybe Canelo just, this was the game plan, like, just to kind of, because I noticed that Canelo wasn't that busy early on, and maybe that was the whole thing, and he preserved himself, and then, like, the later rounds, he kind of just stepped on the gas a little bit. 117-111 scorecard was crazy. But I'm not mad that he won. You know, that Canelo won. I mean, he looked impressive, man. I mean, a lot of people doubted him, including myself. At least in this fight. I mean, I didn't think he would fight terrible, but I picked Lara to win, and Canelo, he proved the doubters wrong. He mentioned when he was being interviewed about like how Lara needs to go back and learn how to box, and like he didn't need to say all that, man. Like I think the classy thing to say would have been like, yo, like you know, Lara did his thing, but like I was the better man tonight. But it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? I don't hate the guy, but I mean, I was kind of like a little salty about that. Now it really sets up a mega fight with him and Miguel Cotto. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's going to happen in December or they're going to rush to put that forward. But at this point, man, like you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you could potentially lose, man. So it's like, if I were them, man, I'd try to at least make this, I don't want to say as quick as possible, but make it be their next fight. I don't see the point of them fighting a filler fight to like fight next May, you know, because I guess that's the goal. But next to a Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, if that ever happened, I think this is the next biggest fight in boxing that can be made, meaning Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez. Mexico, Puerto Rico, but it would be on a huge level. Huge level. We'll see what happens with that whole situation. I don't expect anything to come about that soon, but again, back to Canelo Lara, man. There's gonna be controversy as far as that scorecard, but I'll be one to say, man, like you gotta give Canelo his due, man. I mean, he really applied the pressure that I think if he would have done against Floyd, he would have been a lot more successful. Not to say he would have won, but because I mean, I think Floyd even offensively is a lot more dynamic and a lot more precise than Lara is. But I think we're maybe starting to see the maturity come into Canelo Alvarez because, and also, like I said, the stamina looked as if didn't play an issue for Canelo, like maybe I thought it would. So I gotta give props to Canelo Alvarez, man. I saw the fight again this morning, and I still scored it a draw. You know what I mean? And again, like I don't fault really at both. I mean, if I were to say what anything about both guys as far as maybe would have gotten them a notch over, at least with me on my scorecard, is at least with Lara being a little more assertive on the offensive department, and then maybe with Canelo on my end, in spots where maybe he could have cut the ring off better, he could have done what he did in the later rounds a little more frequently, like in you know, earlier on. But these fights are tough, man. I mean, this is why boxing's crazy. Like, where you never know what can happen. But again, I'm not mad at the decision. It is what it is, man. You know, Canelo's gonna go on to bigger, better things, and Lara's still gonna be around, man. And he's gonna be maybe the, you know, it sounds crazy to say, and maybe it's not insulting the guy in any way, but he can end up being just a gatekeeper at 154, man, who you gotta go through to get to be who, if it's Floyd Mayweather or if it's Canelo Alvarez or Miguel Cotto or whatever. It's just that 117-111 scorecard. Oh, Jesus Christ. So, but that's all I got. That's really all I got, man. Let me know what you think about the fight. You know, like I always say, subscribe, hit the links. Let me know what you think about a potential Cotto-Canelo fight. Maybe end of this year or spring of next year. So subscribe, hit the links, and I'll be back soon.